Hi there, Willow House fam. This is Bria. It's really exciting to get to chat with you today. I get to start off our first webinar with something that I am really excited to share with you, and that's 3 things to know about breastfeeding before baby's even here. What a concept, right? I know for me personally, I did have a heads up because I was so grateful to be surrounded by so many women who shared their personal struggles with breastfeeding. So it led me to look into what my resources were, and I just wish I had had so much more time than I even gave myself. I started in my 3rd trimester with my daughter, and that was super helpful. And so I just wish this for anyone who's thinking about getting pregnant someday, or if you are currently pregnant or just in the throes of postpartum. Hopefully, these 3 things can help you and feel supported in your journey with breastfeeding. So, the first thing that I'd like to talk about are going to be the benefits of breast milk. Because above all, if you're going to commit to it and if you need to know why, we need to know what the benefits are so that you can advocate for yourself. The second thing is going to be talking about how to build your team. So, who in the community, whether they're doctors or lactation consultants, specialty practitioners, who's available to you if and when those times arise that you need support, who can you go to? And the third thing that we're going to talk about are signs of struggle. So when you're in it, what are the kinds of things that may come up so you have a heads up, so then you're not sitting there waiting, that you can actually take action on what's going on. So let's circle back now to breastfeeding. So the benefits of breastfeeding. So number one, oh my gosh, we could spend an entire 3-hour webinar on each of the benefits here. So we'll keep it short. But my number one recommendation is going to be to do your research and know why the World Health Organization, why the CDC, why generations of women have really advocated for it. And it's not, I have to back up a bit. This isn't just opinion, these are hard facts. We have data from from a very, very, very long time on what the benefits are. And so if we go to the World Health Organization website, for example, they are stating that about 38% of women who feed baby within the first hour are successful with breastfeeding. Now, there's a reason that they recommend that. Breastfeeding for exclusively for 6 months after baby's born is the standard. So without contention, the fact is that the recommendation of feeding baby breast milk exclusively from 0 to 6 months is the gold standard. If we go beyond that, they recommend that it's also incredibly beneficial to go beyond up to 2 years and beyond. So we have to scale back and say, okay, well, why would the World Health Organization and the CDC and all these organizations be so adamant that breastfeeding is the way to go with baby? We have to look at what makes up breast milk and why it's so special. So breast milk is made by mom. And what we can get into later is that it actually changes as baby is developing. So the saliva of a baby's mouth interacts with glands on mom's nipple and tells the body, mom's body, to change milk composition as baby grows. Whether they're sick, whether they're in a growth spurt, the frequency of baby feeding tells mom to produce more or may tell mom to produce less, depending on what their need is, which is incredibly special. So, looking deeper into that, there are immunological benefits. There are parts of mom's immune system that pass through the breast milk to baby, which simply is not the case with other forms of feeding through formula. So, that's one of the benefits. The composition of the breast milk. There's a lot of fat and protein in breast milk, in addition to some sugars. The fat component, babies need fat. We need to build our hormones. We need building blocks. Babies need a lot of that. So knowing the benefits of the breast milk are what are going to empower you to look at your diet, to look at ways that you can support yourself with supplementation, because your body is in a breakdown phase after baby's born. You've just given so much of yourself. Your body's going through a huge shift. You're giving a lot, and it's going to need a lot of nutrients to rebuild. So to support yourself in rebuilding, that's already enough of a nutrition discussion. Needing a lot more protein, needing more vegetables, needing a little more supplements like vitamin D3, fish oils, things to really help the body grow. In addition to that, you're going to be continually giving yourself. So we want to end up not at a deficit. So looking into ways that you can make sure you're getting enough calories so that you can give to yourself, heal yourself, and then also have enough to give to baby. So those are some things to look into. Now, again, the World Health Organization has so many stats. I'll share a couple of these stats with you. One of the most important ones is that babies that are fed within the first hour of life, So once baby's born, from womb to in, however baby comes out, womb to in your arms, getting baby on the breast within an hour of life, or feeding within an hour of life, has the best outcome of having a child being able to stay latching for that 6 months period and beyond. It's incredibly important that you know to advocate for yourself, that if however baby's born, whether it's a vaginal birth, unmedicated, medicated, if it's a cesarean, this is especially when you need to advocate. Ask for a pump. If you need to be separated from baby for whatever reason, really make sure you pump. And we can go down a whole other talk about support in that regard, with special circumstances and so forth with birth. But getting baby fed within that first hour is super crucial. So again, that helps set you up for the long outcome and the long haul of being able to support baby. I was super grateful that I got to support Cameron, my daughter, for 6 months after birth. And then we had some challenges. She hit a growth spurt, she got some teeth, she got a cold. And that was where I had some challenges. And so Cameron and I had to switch our feeding pattern. She still has been exclusively fed breast milk, but I've had to pump. So I've had to learn a lot of things about this. And it's part of what has fueled me to want to share with you. So getting baby fed in that first hour of life has the best outcome. Luckily, I was able to do that. And so I wish that for you, knowing that 1 hour, get that baby on the breast. So that's, again, these are all just facts that are, you can look at them. There's going to be a lot of things to consider. The Big Letdown is a great book to read for this area, because it shares how there's a lot of pressure to get mom back into the workplace. That's going to pressure you to either have to pump a lot if you're away from your baby, or to supplement with formula. Now, in the standard is 8 weeks right now of being on postpartum leave, that doesn't meet that 6-month goal of breastfeeding. So really knowing what your core value is and being open to starting a plan on what that looks like for you with returning to work, that's how you're going to be able to support you and baby going through that transition. Again, the immunological benefits, so the nutrients and the immune components that mom gets from baby, those are a huge reason to continue to breastfeed, because they get what you get. Even the CDC and the World Health Organization recommend that you continue to breastfeed through COVID. So even if you've tested positive and you have those antibodies, those pass through to the baby in a beneficial way and allow them that passed over immunity, or or the immune antibodies. So it's recommended that you do continue feeding. So learning a little bit about that, like when you're sick, still breastfeed. Even if you have food poisoning, it's recommended that you continue to breastfeed. So knowing your why. So moving on to number 2, we're going to talk about support team. So the second thing that I'd love for everyone to have in their world are knowing who can support them when times do get tough. So number 1 is going to be a lactation consultant. So when you're pregnant, or if you're in that last trimester, or even if you're just considering getting pregnant, start to ask around, who are the lactation consultants in your area? If you find someone that you really, really love, maybe ask them what their rates are, so you can save up some money and maybe get a couple sessions in. There's nothing more valuable than having a lactation consultant when things are a little challenging, or even just to make sure to help you know that you're doing it right, because there's so many questions as being a new mom. And it changes child to child as well. The first child's latch may be different from the second child's latch. So having a lactation consultant on hand and knowing where to go, what number to call, even down to the phone number, is going to be super valuable. Someone else to consider is a chiropractor. As chiropractors, we're checking for tongue ties and lip ties, and we're also looking at the cranial structure of the baby, if there's any tension. All of these things can affect baby's ability to latch. The stress of mom, when we're really bound up in that initial postpartum period, our bodies are really tight and may hold on to a lot more stress. That makes it challenging for us to produce milk if we're in that ramped up phase. If we're not able to relax, we may notice changes in our supply. So really having a good chiropractor, start asking around on who sees babies, who sees new moms, who sees pregnant women. Those are really good resources. So a lactation consultant and a chiropractor who sees pediatrics and pregnancy. Another person or group to look into would be the Latch League. The Latch Leagues exist all over the country. They are huge advocates for breastfeeding. A lot of them have virtual meetups at this time. You can go to the Latch League website and see if there's someone near you. Also, things that you'll see popping up that are really fun are local lactation consultants are doing like breastfeeding cafes. So that's something available to you. Oh, it's so wonderful to be able to sit in community with other moms and their newborns, and you just come and you hang out and you talk and you hear about what other moms would be going through. You kind of pick up on tips, and it's really special to be in community. Being in community is a way that we fed children for many, many years, like many generations back. It wasn't necessarily just one person. Sometimes mom had to pass the mother, like if they were having a struggle with breast milk, it was super common for mom to let baby be fed by another woman in that community. Not so common today. There are communities that do it, which is wonderful because the benefit, especially if you're living in the same vicinity, there's a whole benefit to the same gut flora and sharing microbiome, and there's many, many different things. However, just for this instance, sitting in community with other moms to let you know that you're not alone is super valuable. So finding your village, lactation consultant, chiropractor, your local Latch League or breastfeeding meetup. Those are going to be super helpful. The third thing I want to chat about are signs of struggle. So breastfeeding, it can be easy, it can be challenging, and it can be a whole spectrum in between. I was super lucky in the sense that my daughter, her latch was super comfortable from the beginning. The hard was the frequency because no one can prepare you from having a newborn. It's a first experience of lack of sleep. Those babies need to be fed often every 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes they're super satisfied and really take in a good quantity of milk, and they're really proficient sucklers, and they're able to go for longer stretches right off. Every baby is different. My daughter needed to be fed every 2 hours. So not only was I taking 40, 50, 60 minutes to feed her, then burp her, rechange her, and then of course the cycle starts right over again by that time. So literally it is a labor of love, and having that support was crucial for me. So those were the hards. It wasn't necessarily her latch. Her latch felt great, yet the frequency of the time and being tired and finding time for yourself to get some shut-eye is really important. So you really got to trust your intuition with the feedings. And trusting your intuition is something that will help you figure out, do I need support? Am I okay? Do I need a check-in? Where am I falling? If the baby's having wet diapers, that's super good news because that means that they're getting milk. So frequent changes. Every 2 hours or so, baby should be having a bowel movement, or I'm sorry, not even bowel movement, just a wet diaper. So if they're having wet diapers, it tells you that they're getting the milk in. If baby is not having consistent wet diapers, if they're really, really upset and not having diapers, definitely time to reach out and say, hey, is there something going on with my latch? Is it, could I be holding baby in a different way? Is there a different way I could hold the baby so that the feeding might be a little more efficient? Or some options that may occur with the baby, some things that could come up are that they may have a tongue tie, which is when the space between the tongue and the bottom of the mouth they're connected in a way that doesn't allow the baby's tongue to come out enough to create suction on your nipple. So some people may not discover this until the baby is 4 or 5 months old and may have a really rough journey. This is something, especially in the hospitals, the lactation consultants and chiropractors are extremely skilled at looking at if they work with babies and kids. You don't have to wait or to find this out when kids are 3, 4 months old. This can be identified very early on, as early as 1 to 2 days old. So if there's painful latch, that's something to really look into, would be to make an appointment with your local chiropractor or lactation consultant immediately so that they can feel around baby's mouth and see if there might be those little adhesions and little areas of skin that may need some support to be able to make the latch more comfortable. So that could be like raw nipples, bloody nipples, just discomfort. To be fair, there is a period of growth where your nipple is going to have to go through a process of becoming used to the baby latching. That could wipe out in 3 days. And after 3 days or so of being with the baby, latching may be super comfortable. For me and my daughter, our latch was super comfortable at the get-go. It wasn't until the 6-month mark, because she got teeth really early, that I noticed changes in her latch. And now I know, because I've been through it, but it may be earlier on for you and yours. So discomfortable latch could be the thing. So it might not just be you and your positioning. It could be something structurally in the baby's mouth. So having a team of people who can help you decide what that is. Again, trusting your intuition. If baby is getting wet diapers, that's a great thing. It's a great place to start, because you know that they're getting milk. I will talk a little bit about the weight and the height charts, because the number one thing you should know about this is that they are not exclusive to babies who are breastfed. So when you get your baby weighed and charted for height, especially in a Western medical setting like a hospital, the comparison is against kids who are formula fed from birth and breastfed. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison, because kids who are getting fed formula tend to gain really quickly. Children who are fed breast milk tend to gain a little more slowly. Not the case in all situations, but if you're being told that your baby's not putting on weight in your breastfeeding, you really need to think about looking at your resources and making sure that your baby is having wet diapers, making sure that you see a lactation consultant to make sure you're doing your part to make sure latch is good and that your milk is your milk is flowing to your baby, but making sure that there's nothing you can do to improve it. You need to trust your intuition on that. If the baby's getting really upset, there's a couple reasons babies get upset. They get upset because they're hungry. They have a dirty or wet diaper. There's discomfort, like maybe a tag is itching them on their skin or something uncomfortable, or usually temperature changes. Babies don't cry for no reason. So if they're crying consistently, there may be a reason that maybe they're hungry. If they're crying inconsolably and they're not having wet diapers, that's definitely a reason to reach out for support. Now, again, you need to be your advocate for the weight charts, only because you're not being breastfed babies are not necessarily going to gain as quickly all the time as those kids who are on formula. And just from the World Health Organization, we know that breastfed for the first 6 months is the recommendation. So what do we need to do to help us stay the course of that? So when these struggles come up, if your baby is having if you have painful latch, if baby is lethargic, if baby is inconsolably crying and not having enough wet diapers, that's when we need to reach out to our support team from tip number 2, our lactation consultant, our chiropractor, our Latch League, having those resources. So identifying what the potential issues are with breastfeeding early can help you to get support faster, so that you can make sure that you're staying in alignment with whatever your value is to feed baby long term, or whatever that may be. So I'm going to leave a little pro tip. So the 3 things we covered today were the benefits of breast milk. So looking into that early to make sure that you know and understand why breast milk is an incredibly great way to feed your child. Looking into your local support team and finding those people so that you have a team with you, so that you don't have to struggle when the time comes, because there's a lot to worry about already postpartum with baby. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of a new little human. You want to have those names, numbers to contact ready to go. And then knowing the signs and struggles that could happen when things aren't shaping up the way that you anticipated. The discomforts in baby, discomforts to your physical body, and knowing that that's when you want to call someone right away. So hopefully this has been helpful. One thing I do want to share that's a pro tip, and we'll get into more of this soon, is something to have on hand, because there's going to be a lot of night feedings potentially in the early weeks with baby, is a red light headlamp. So you're learning how to breastfeed in the beginning. Babies have never done this before. So it's a rhythm, it's a dance. We have to get our coordination. The light, there's temptation to turn on the light in the middle of the night to see where baby's latching. There's a lot of research showing that white light, especially LED lights, are extremely harmful to disrupt the rhythm of baby's sleep cycle and your sleep cycle. So one thing that would be super helpful is to get a red headlamp. You can get them online. It's just like a little headlamp and it's red light. that will ramp down the nervous system so that if you do need to wake up and you need to see baby and check latch, having an alternative to that bright white light of turning it on in the bedroom, that will hopefully help you and baby stay down regulated. So it might be a little easier of a transition to get back to sleep. We used it. We don't turn the light on after 7 p.m. or whenever sun goes down, depending on what time of the year it is. And I really do feel that that was a huge benefit to our daughter, and that she was able to fall into those sleep wake cycles a little easier. So hopefully that's helpful as well. Looking forward to chatting with y'all more soon.